What's up, guys? This is Kephas, and in this video we're going to check out the Havoc Demon Hunter macros I've made for GnomeSequencer Enhanced 2.0. So if you've watched my GnomeSequencer Enhanced video, you've learned about my new macros that I've made, you've downloaded GnomeSequencer Enhanced, and you've imported my macros, you are ready to go. If you haven't done any of those things, I suggest you take a look at the description below where links will be provided. You can learn more about all that stuff there. Otherwise, if you've done all that, you want to use the Havoc Demon Hunter macros, I'm going to teach you how they work. Now, there's actually only one macro for Havoc Demon Hunters because the class is actually pretty easy to play. I'm really happy with how this class works out. It's a lot of fun. It's not really all that difficult. There's not really much of a difference for single target or AoE, kind of depending on what talents you choose, but there is a very easy way to play this class, and you're going to do pretty decent damage. So there's one Havoc macro. We will go over the Vengeance macro on another video, but we're looking at Havoc here. There is a disclaimer here. It says Havoc macro for single target and AoE, managed Fell Rush and Vengeful Retreat separately. You can imagine why it would be within your best interest to manage those abilities separately and not try to put those in the macro, because you'll just be bouncing around willy-nilly when you don't expect it, and no one wants that. It's not effective at all. So just handle those abilities separately. Otherwise, the macro is going to do pretty darn good. It's just one very simple macro. Obviously, you take a look here. If you want to kind of look into the macro and how it works, you can just right-click the macro, go over to one. There's usually just one version, so just go to the version. And you can see here, obviously, target enemy, no harm deads in every macro. It's a targeting button. If you scroll down, Demon Hunter, Havoc Demon Hunters actually have no passive cooldowns. So that's kind of interesting. The only real DPS cooldown you have is Metamorphosis. You're going to have to manage that separately. I figure you kind of assume such. If an ability has a big, like the big green thing, what do you call that? Like reticle, whatever, like we got to select an area. It's never going to be in a macro. Obviously, you're spamming macros. You can't really expect that to work. So those kind of abilities are always managed separately. Otherwise, look at all this stuff this macro is going to do. If you've taken the Fellblade talent, it's going to do that. It's going to use Fury of the Illidari when you're in combat. It's going to use Nemesis when you're in combat. It's going to throw Glaive. It's going to use I-Beam. It's going to use Blade Dance. It's going to use Chaos Strike, and it's going to use Demon's Bite if you have the Demon's Bite ability, because you haven't made it passive. So this macro is going to cover all the freaking bases. It's really freaking easy. I love the Demon Hunter. I love how easy it was to make this macro and how easy it is to play this class. So let's go over the talents that I've chosen. Obviously, I always forget to show this. When you look here, all this information is here, and it'll say talents going from left to right, top to bottom, straightforward. So if we look at the talents that I've chosen, obviously you have a lot of freedom here for what you want to go with. There really isn't anything that will change how the macro works, but obviously if you choose some talents that would change it, like add a few other abilities, you might want to manage those separately. We will go over that now. Fellblade's a nice talent. It makes it so that you can charge at the enemy. I've put this inside the macro. That way, if you have an enemy selected and you're within range, you will rush to them and you'll get going. So I like Fellblade. If you don't take Fellblade, that's fine. It'll make these other abilities do their thing. I-Beam generates more fury. That's not going to change how the macro works. Increases Fell Rush damage. That used to be a really good talent. It's still not bad, but I feel like Fell Rush is kind of taking a little bit of a backseat to other builds now, which is fine. I don't like that style of play. A lot of people like the mobile style. I like a more traditional, boring, classic style. But the Demon Hunter is fun still. This one was a no-brainer for me. Demon Blades, which makes Demon's Bite passive, is actually a really competitive ability still. It wasn't meant to be initially, but it's kind of held its own all throughout this entire expansion. So if I can remove an ability and make the class make it passive, so that's one less thing I have to manage, that's what I'm going to go with. But obviously, if you don't, the macro will do Demon's Bite when it's available, so you don't have to worry about it. Otherwise, I recommend this talent. It makes it easier to play. It makes the macro easier to work, so I recommend it. Otherwise, do whatever you want. And going on from there really isn't much else to talk about. Most of these abilities are passive, but if you do take, let's say you go with Netherwalk, you're going to want to have to manage that separately. A lot of those abilities, I've actually put Nemesis in the macro, but I didn't put Fell Eruption in the macro because of how it works, and it kind of goes along the same lines. A big one is the last tier. I did not put Fell Barrage in the macro because, again, it's just about how it works, and Chaos Blades, kind of the same idea. You kind of want to manage those abilities separately if you're going to go with them. Otherwise, I recommend that you just go with demonic, and just not worry about it. Why not just take demonic? You get a little bit of a boost there. Every time you use I-beam, you turn into a demon. It's freaking awesome. But do whatever you want. Obviously, you'll just have to manage them separately, or you could try to add them into the macro yourself if you want. See how they work. Otherwise, just go with this. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And let's get into it. So we're going to just start spamming away at this macro. We only have one macro. Look at that. It brings me in, and now I'm going crazy. I'm already building up all kinds of fury. Haven't even had to use Fell Rush yet. There goes the Ildari ability. Look at this. It's pretty freaking cool. Now, if there's I-beam, look at me. I'm a big hulking demon now. That's freaking awesome, man. I love it. So if I want to Fell Rush, I got to obviously do that separately. So there we go. Maybe. Are we going? There we go. It just kind of lagged a little bit for some reason. Well, so there right there is a good example of what not to do. If you're not in range, don't spam the buttons because you might use ability when you're not in range. You don't want to do that. So if we use Vengeful Retreat, back off some, we move back in, and we just keep going. And we can use Fell Rush again if it'll let me. Sometimes it's just kind of weird. Now, that's not even because of the macro. It just is what it is. But as you can see, it's doing just fine. Let's go into demon form here. Obviously, you manage that separately, and let's see what kind of damage we are doing. We're pulling in about 250k DPS. It's not bad, really, considering what my item level is. My item level as a Demon Hunter is much less than my item level as my Paladin, but this is kind of like my second main. I considered briefly making this my main, and honestly, I could do that now. It's a lot of fun. The macro does a pretty decent job. I'm pretty happy with it. The rotation has gotten a lot simpler with the changes. One of the hardest things about making these macros is when they go off and change a class and how you play one. So, like, in some cases, from 7.0 to 7.1 and 7.15, they've done a lot of major changes to how these classes are played, and then obviously I have to go through and try to change macros, and that's just really difficult. So, yeah, I apologize. And then, of course, when you add legendaries in the mix, that changes your rotation up, and you got artifact power, artifact knowledge, and artifact abilities that changes how the rotation works. Ugh, it can get pretty crazy. So, obviously, just, spam away at the macro. Make sure that you're using your Fell Rush, your Vengeful Retreat. You're using those when you can. Better than I have been, because I'm talking, I'm not paying too much attention. And then, otherwise, yeah, it's going to work just fine. Pretty straightforward. I'm pretty happy. My item level is 834. So it's like almost 40 points less, 35 points less than my Retribution Paladin. So yeah, obviously it's going to do less damage, and I don't have any legendaries. But it, hey, for 834, that's not bad. I'm pretty happy with it considering I'm using a macro. So yeah, if you want to play Demon Hunter, if you're a Havoc Demon Hunter, you want to use a macro to make it a little bit easier on yourself, by all means, go right ahead. Just remember, you're going to have to use Fell Rush and Vengeful Retreat separately. Otherwise, the macro is going to work just fine. Do whatever you want. Pick your talents, whatever you want, and give it a try. You can obviously edit the macro if you want to suit your own personal interest. And that's a quick guide on how to use the macros for Havoc Demon Hunter. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like it. Don't forget to hit the share button, hit the like button, smash that like button. Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful day. This is Kephas. Until next time.